Assalamu alaikum students. So welcome back to another lecture on the first week of Introduction to Mathematics. So this is unit 1.3 and in this unit we'll be talking about percentages. Now I will remind you again that this week is just a review of basic arithmetic operations and all the algebra. So it is highly possible that you are familiar with these concepts. You must be, I'm sure, familiar with the concept of percentages. So we'll be discussing these percentages, and we'll also discuss something called average, which again, I'm sure you must have some basic idea about it. So let's talk about them. Percentages, the term percentages, it's basically percent, right? Percent. And it literally translates to per hundred because cent means 100, right? So percent means per hundred. Like if I say 90 miles per hour, what does that mean? That means miles per hour, that in 1 hour I'm traveling this much miles, right? So percent is basically per hundred. If I say 19 or if I say 20%, this means 20 per hundred. Basically, this is what this means, right? We can think of a single percent as being the same as 1 by 100. Basically, 1% is basically 1/100th, right? And many other commonly used percentages can be thought of as simple fractions. And let's see what this means. Percentage literally means per 100 pieces of anything, which is one way of specifying the fraction of a complete whole. So percentages basically, they're just another way of specifying fractions. We've already studied, we've taken a look at fractions in the ratios and proportions. So we have an idea how we can relate it with the fractions. Simply put, a percentage value is a fraction multiplied by 100. Let's take this example. So basically these are 100 boxes, right? And out of them 15 have been colored, right? So 5, 5 and 5. So these are 15 colored boxes, and out of them, these are out of 100 boxes, so 15 colored boxes. And if I were to ask you that what is the percentage of the colored boxes, so you would say this is how you're supposed to calculate percentages. You find out how many colored boxes are there, which is 15, out of the total boxes. The total boxes in this case is 100, right? So 15 divided by 100. So now you have this fraction, right? 15 by 100. And now you convert this fraction into a percentage. And how do you do that? You do this by multiplying it with 100, right? We're going to see this in the next slide. But a way of representing a function with a denominator of 100. So 15 by 100 is basically 0.15. This equals, when you divide 15 with 100, you get 0.15. And this is the same as 15%, right? So how to calculate percentages? This is the most important topic over here. So I'll explain this using an example. So let's say I have a basket of fruits, right? And out of a total of 20 fruits, so in total I have 20 fruits, right? So let's remember this. In fact, I'll just underline this right here. Out of those 20, 5 are apples, 10 are oranges, and 5 are pineapples, right? So 5 plus 10 plus 5, that's 20. Total fruits we have 20. 5 of them are apples, 10 of them are oranges, and 5 of them are pineapples. Then we are asked to calculate the percentage of all the fruits, right? The percentage of all 3 fruits is calculated in the following way. First of all, you have to determine the part and the whole. The part and the whole, basically, we have to find out the fraction, right? So if let's suppose I'm talking about the percentage, if I need to find out the fraction of apples, how many apples I have 5 apples. And how many total fruits I have 20, right? So this is the fraction. Here the whole is the fruit basket containing the fruits, and the parts are the 5 apples if I'm talking about apples. If I want to find out the oranges, the parts are the 10 oranges, and if I'm talking about pineapples, then the parts are the 5 pineapples. Secondly, you must determine the fraction of fruits in the basket. This is, for example, the fraction for the apples, right? So a fraction for the apples is 5 by 20, right? Like I have 20 whole fruits, and out of them 5 are apples. So this is the fraction. And now I have to reduce this, further reduce this. You can think of it as a ratio, and you have to reduce this. 5 ones are 5, 5 fours are 20. So what do you get? 1 by 4. right here, right? So let's talk about the oranges. Again, this is not the percentage, this is just the fraction. And after we have the fraction, we can calculate the percentages. So the fraction of oranges, remember we have 10 oranges out of 20 fruits. So that becomes 1 by 2. And pineapples is the same as 5 by 20 and we get 1 by 2, right? So now you can say that 1/4 of the fruit are apples. Basically 1 by 4, what does it mean? That 1 out of every 4 fruits is an apple. So 1/4 of the fruits are apples, half are oranges, and the other 1/4 are pineapples. So now that we have the fractions, we can easily convert it into percentages. Once the fraction has been established, calculating percentages is extremely simple. The percentage of apples, for example, in this basket is calculated using the following formula. Part by whole, this thing is the fraction, right? The fraction multiplied by 100, and you will get the percentage. So if I need to find out the percentage of apples, I need to find out first of all the fraction of apples, which is 5 by 20, and I multiply it by the number 100, right? And when I do that, I get the answer 25. So I can write it, the percentage of apples in the basket is 25%, right? Let's take a look at the percentage of oranges. The fraction for the oranges was 10 by 20, and when you multiply it by 100, it can get simplified to 1 by 2 multiplied by 100, which gives me 50%, right? So 50% of the fruits, they are oranges. And similarly for pineapples, I can calculate it just like I did for the apples, and I can get 25% of them are pineapples. So this is how you're supposed to calculate percentages. Again, of course, these are those were just word problems, but you should know how to solve it in a mathematical way as well. I would ask you to go ahead and solve all these. I'll solve a few for you. So 17% of 100, right? So I have a number which is 100, and I need to find out what is the 17% of this 100. So what is 17% of 100? I can do that by using 17 upon 100, which is, this is 17% multiplied by this number right here, 100, which basically cancels out to give me 17 itself, right? So 17% of 100 is equals to 17. You can think of it as this way, that your total marks are, let's suppose, 100 marks, and you scored 17% of them. Let's hope you're not scoring 17% in this subject, but even if you do, 17% of 100, what does it mean? Basically, you're scoring 17 marks, right? Now, obviously, these percentages can change and these numbers can change as well. What is 20% of 80? How do you calculate that? You write the percentage, 20 upon 100, and then you multiply it by this number right here, 80, right? And now you simplify. So 2 4s are 8, 2 5s are 10, 5 1s are 5, 5 4s are 20. So basically, you get 60. So 20% of 80 is basically 16, right? Now let's talk about 25% of 16. I'll show you one way, the way that we've been doing so far. 25%, how do you do it? 25 divided by 100 multiplied by 16, which when you calculate it, you will find out that it is 4, right? Another way of doing it, instead of writing 25 of 100, you need to realize 25% is what? 25% is basically 1/4, right? 1 by 4, 1/4 of something. So we're asked to find 1/4 of 16. So 4 1s are 4, 4 4s are 16, and 1 times 4, we get the number 4, just like we got it before, right? Similarly, 50% of 18, we can solve it like this: 50 divided by 100 multiplied by 18, right? Or we can just think of 50% as what? Which is half, right? Half of 18. Half of 18, we know it's 9. Without any calculation, we should know that if we divide 18 by half, if we half 18, we get the number 9, right? So 50% of 18 is basically 9, right? So you're supposed to do all these calculations by yourself, and the answers of them are right here in the next slide, right? 17% of 100 is 17 right here, 20% of 80 is 16 right here, and likewise, right? So you're supposed to do all these by yourself and have a go, and you'll learn more about percentages. Another concept that you that you should know is the concept of averages. Now, what is an average? we represent it with average, AVG, right? So average is basically the sum of all numbers, of all values divided by the total values. Let's say, for example, I have a set of numbers. Let's say in your class, somebody scored 9 marks out of 10, another person scored 5 marks, another person scored 6 marks, right? And another person scored, let's say, 4 marks, right? So average is basically, I want to find out what is the average mark, right? Average is a concept, basically, like what is the mark that the whole class obtained. Obviously the whole class obtained different marks, but they still, average marks, average means something that is, in between, right? So how do you calculate average? Basically you sum all these values divided by the total number of values. So sum all these values, you get 9 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4, and then you divide it by the total number of values, 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. So 9 plus 5 is 9 plus, it's 24, right? 24 divided by 4, you get 6. So 6 is the average mark of the class, right? So on average, every person scored 6. Now, obviously, every person did not score 6. Somebody scored 9, somebody 5, somebody 4. But 6 is the average score of the class, right? Again, this is a very easy example, and averages, this is the concept of averages, which is associated normally with your percentages, right? So this was the topic of percentages and averages. It was a very easy topic, and I'll see you in the next lecture.